Hello, I'm Whit McIsaac. I'm President and CEO of Client Profiles based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for joining me today. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Client Profiles family, which at this juncture represents about 75 employees in the U.S., another 25 internationally, and a wonderful client base of approximately 1,500 law firms around the world. And at ILTA this year, on Tuesday morning at 8:30, we're going to be holding a product briefing. And we'd like to formally invite you to join us to take a look at what these guys have developed and how it potentially can impact your law practice from a technology perspective. So I hope I piqued your interest with this application development framework concept. What I'd like to do right now is ask you guys to follow me. Let's go meet some of the individuals that have actually taken and made this product a reality. Let's go.
The heart of our V10 system is business objects and relationships. An implementation of V10 comes with a set of core components and core objects, such as matters and clients. Those types of objects are found in all case management solutions. What makes V10 so unique is you have the ability to specialize and customize and create new business objects. Examples of this would be creating your own specialized matter types or your own specialized clients. In a law firm, there are several applications that you have to deal with, from document management to case management, which is our application, to financial. Making sure that you have those applications integrated in a cohesive manner is very important for your overall return on investment on those products. In a service-oriented approach, you're providing a way for third-party developers as well as your own internal developers to access the inner workings of our system and our business logic in such a way to easily and cohesively create a system that is tailored for your environment.
Everyone, I'm joined here today by Kevin Wydra, and Kevin is the Vice President and the Director of Software Development at Client Profiles. He's actually one of the primary founders of the organization. So Kevin, I've piqued everybody's interest. Tell us what's behind this V10 initiative. What is it?
We've enjoyed great success in the case management technology space over the course of the last 15 years. And one of the things that we've learned along the way as we've created these new versions of technologies is that these applications for law firms really fall into kind of buckets of packaged applications where they're very good at providing, call it 80% of the functionality that a firm needs out of the box. But it's that last 20% that always falls short for these larger law firms. Mm-hmm. So as we started designing and thinking about our new architecture for the case management, it was a key tenet of ours to make sure that we provided the extensibility throughout the entire application so that we could give them the best of both worlds there in providing that 80% where out of the box they have the modules they need, they can get up and running quickly. But for that last 20% where they really want custom functionality, the ability to provide a platform that we can develop against or they can develop against or a third party can develop against to provide the customizations and get that last 20%.
So Kevin, the majority of law practices that we're talking to about this V10 initiative are large, multi-office, multinational law practices. Scalability, extensibility, how much of a concern is that for you guys with the V10 product?
With our existing technologies today, we have no issues supporting hundreds of users on an existing system. But as you scale up into these larger markets, you may have offices, law firms with offices across 10, 20, 30 states or countries, so it'll be across the world. So we have to use the concepts of service-oriented architecture so that we can design the framework in a manner where it doesn't matter where the users are, what type of device they're accessing the application from, that we have the ability to leverage the internet and make sure that they can get to the applications they need.
So is this a browser-based application?
So it's a combination of browser-based technologies at the core, and then obviously with Microsoft Office, Outlook, Word, Excel being the primary applications that they're using throughout the day. We have tight integrations inside of those products. So what we do is we take the information, the case management information, and all the data that's being tracked in the system, and we surface that information to them directly from within Outlook. So, as their daily process, everybody spends the majority of their day in their email. So we're going to be able to give them the ability to be inside of Outlook and get to all the matter-related information directly from Outlook without having to leave the application.
Just about every practice we talk to, there's a buzz surrounding SharePoint.
Absolutely.
Help us understand What's the difference between V10 and a SharePoint style solution?
SharePoint is experiencing absolutely astounding growth rates right now, and every firm, if they're not looking at it yet, they will be looking at it in the very short term, because the collaboration technologies that they have in place out of the box allow firms to set up portals very quickly and easily for all the employees to be able to communicate with one another. So as we started architecting the application, we really took a look at the architectures inside of SharePoint to see if we could leverage all of those technologies and just build the case management pieces on top of it. And after digging in very deeply, what we figured out is that as it is a great collaboration tool, it is not structured well enough for the highly relational data that we have the needs for all this case-related data. So the approach that we decided to take was to use the same technologies, which is web part-based technologies, in our architecture from the ground up, so that things that are created and exposed inside of the V10 system are web parts. So we can take these web parts and use them as connectors in SharePoint sites. So what the firms will be allowed to do is they can take and create portals for the important matters or all the matters or whatever it may be, and then take these web parts or these connector pieces from the V10 system and plug them right in, so that they can leverage the best of both technologies.
Wow. So if I've made a huge investment in SharePoint and I've got my internal resources ramped up on developing on that platform, and my investment's protected?
Absolutely, and V10 is just it's a natural extension of the SharePoint technologies.
Everyone, I'm joined by Chris O'Brien. Chris actually manages all of the sales and marketing efforts for client profiles. What type of technology these law practices, these large law practices, are using to handle their case information, case reporting needs?
Yeah, currently they really don't have one centralized tool to handle all of their case management and case reporting needs. Currently what they're doing, they're using probably 6 or 7 disparate applications to be able to manage the case management information on their cases. They're currently trying to find solutions that will be able to fit across those multiple practice areas, but there's not currently a solution available.
What do you think about this concept of V10? Is it something that's going to fit with these larger practices?
It absolutely is, Whit. The V10 is going to allow them to be able to implement one case management system finally in a firm-wide environment to be able to work for the different practice areas, whether it be transactional, litigation, whether it be a multi-district litigation. There's finally going to be a solution that's available to these larger AmLaw 200 firms.
How important is the flexibility component of V10?
It's extremely important. Yeah, the needs within the larger practices, whether it's integrating to existing applications, whether it's replacing a current custom application, it needs to be very flexible to be able to meet their needs.
And the concept of a browser-based application versus a client-server application, how important is that?
It's extremely important. All technology is moving towards browser-based, and law firms are not any different. So it's extremely important to be browser-based, not only to collaborate with remote offices, but also to collaborate with your clients.
We're talking to a lot of law practices that have in-house development teams. Okay. So with this V10 initiative, are we talking about an SDK? What are we talking about giving these law practices to give them the ability to take advantage of the technology?
Well, it's a little bit more than an SDK. What we did in the V10 system is we created a module development platform by which you could create modules and deploy them into the system. This is the way we deploy our modules onto the system.
So it sounds like I can create a custom system using this framework. So one of the big issues, if all this information is going into one centralized database, how do I get the data out? How do I query the database?
Okay, if you're talking from a user perspective, and we're not talking developers here, we have an advanced find technology where users can go in and they can basically build their own queries.
So does that mean the IT staff and the developers don't get phone calls all day from the users, where do I find my information?
But it should definitely reduce the amount of questions they have regarding, I need this specific piece of information. Your power users, which you'll have in each certain environments, will be able to deal with a lot of the issues that IT used to have to do.
Super. And how about reporting? We hear more and more about I need to get the information, then I need to generate a report.
Okay, so reporting. There's some real key concepts around reporting that are important. First off, you need to make sure that your reports are securable. So we developed a set of securable views that you can write SQL reports against. So your report writers can write their own SQL reports against it, and then they can deploy that report into the system.
Super. Thanks, Michael. Kevin, over the last 2 years, your team has been working very closely with a group of developers in Bangalore, India. You know, of course, we hear all kinds of nightmares about offshoring for development. Tell us how important it's been to this V10 effort.
Well, I tell you, for many years I was very skeptical as to whether we could actually make something like that work. But after working with our team now for actually two separate development teams over in India for 2 years now, I can absolutely say that it's been a phenomenal experience for us. It has actually brought better development processes in-house to our development teams over here. So the way that we try and balance it is that we have a combination of architectural people over on our side and business analyst people, and then we have our development teams over in India. So we actually get the best of both worlds in terms of being able to do our day-to-day stuff here during the day, and then to meet with our teams in the early evening, or 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then be able to go to bed, and by the next morning we've got a whole series of things to look at. And the development processes that we've established is really highly structured and allows us every 2 weeks, we call them sprints and agile development methodologies. These 2-week sprints allow us to know exactly what's going on a day-by-day basis, and then every 2 weeks we can review what's been done in the prior 2 weeks and set up for what's going to be done in the next 2 weeks. So it's very flexible for us because we can react quickly versus the traditional horror stories you hear is that you send a set of specifications over there and 3 months later you don't know what's going on, and that's where the real risk lies. But we've been very successful to date.
Now, a lot of the law practices that we've been talking to, their internal resources are stretched and diluted as thin as they can. Are you going to make these resources available to help with some of the V10 efforts?
Absolutely. The beauty of having an actual application platform to be able to develop on top of, it gives the firms, developers in-house, the ability to develop on top of it, but equally, if not more importantly, as we start to roll out a V10 system with them, we can scale up and scale down our teams in India to be able to help with that process because they're already familiar with developing on top of this platform.
So what you're telling me is it's not only the technology, but it's also the resources associated with this group of offshore developers that we've established that are going to make these projects go more efficiently, quicker, for less money. What's the thought process?
Every bit of it is going to be a benefit for them because, if a firm, let's say they're at a particular stage and they want to ramp up a project, but their resources are taxed, us having those developers on staff and the ability to scale them up and down, we can quickly add a small team of developers to help create a new module to plug into their system. Do the traditional, the sprint processing we're doing as part of our planning and review process. They can participate directly and see the results on a 2-week basis.
True collaboration.
True collaboration.
Thanks. Well, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope the information that was provided by our technical team was helpful. I hope it's piqued your interest and got you interested in coming to see us on Tuesday morning at the ILTA conference. We're going to be having a technical product review. It's not a sales pitch. It's a technical presentation of what this application development framework is designed to do. Obviously, we're going to have breakfast. We hope you'll be able to join us, and thanks again for all the time.